if you want. So a little introduction about me, and then we'll get straight into the meat of the presentation. So my name is Claire Russell and I'm the founder of Mental Health in Business. I started this business with my two business partners. Steve is one of them, about 2.5 years ago, after having experienced a mental breakdown myself several years earlier. I was the managing director of a business at the time of my breakdown, and it was a pretty catastrophic breakdown. And really, it was quite a long recovery process for me. And in going through that whole experience, it sort of happened over the space of about a year. And going through that experience, it really highlighted for me, actually, there was a real lack of understanding within the workplace. And I don't blame the business that I was with at all. I think it was just very much reflective of how things are, how things were, particularly then anyway, within the workplace. So there was a lack of understanding in terms of how to support people with mental health issues. That led me to start looking at this whole mental health piece. And I went on to train with the Samaritans, and I became a listening volunteer with the Samaritans. I still do that now. And then at the beginning of 2018, I lost my partner to suicide. And going through that experience really crystallized for me that I wanted to do more than I could just do as a volunteer. So I went on to do more training, and then we set this business up later on that year. So through this business and the other work that I do some coaching, and the volunteer work that I do, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of individuals to help them to experience better mental health and well-being. And through the business, we work with lots of businesses to help them to create healthier mental health cultures within their organisations. I'm really glad that you've decided to join the webinar today, and I really hope that you'll hear something in it today that's of value to you individually. I'm going to share some of the things that I've learned in my years of working with and supporting women to experience better mental health and well-being, as well as some of my more personal lived experiences of mental ill health, because I think that sharing those personal experiences can really help to bring the topic to life. So I will share a little bit about my own experiences, and you will leave with some practical tools that you will be able to take away and use to improve your own mental well-being. So almost all of the women that I have talked with have shared with me that they find it hard sometimes to live up to the expectations on them as a modern woman. I think for many, it feels like they have to do it all. There's an expectation that they'll do it all, have a successful career, have a happy relationship, perhaps raise children for some people, maintain a lovely home, stay in shape, look good. And it can feel like you're failing if you're not attaining in any of those areas, that you're not good enough, or that you're somehow letting someone else down. Those kinds of thoughts can have a significant impact on mental health, and they can be really difficult to talk about, perhaps for fear of being judged or seen as not good enough, feeling like you've got to do it all and put everybody else's needs above your own. The world that we live in today is demanding. It can feel like we've got to measure up to society's expectation of what it is to be a modern woman. We're juggling all these different roles and responsibilities all the time: career woman, wife or partner, mother or carer, friend. All that pressure and expectation can lead to symptoms of mental ill health, stress, anxiety, low mood, and in some cases, serious mental ill health, and even for some people, self-harm and thoughts of suicide. 1 in 4 people experiences mental health issues every year, and that's only going in one direction. At any given time, 1 in 6 working age adults is experiencing symptoms of mental ill health. According to the latest statistics, 1 in 5 women has the symptoms of a common mental health disorder. The true number may be higher than that, because still there are many women that don't feel that they can speak up and ask for help when they need it. Mental ill health is certainly on the rise. Before the pandemic, we were experiencing epidemic levels of mental ill health. A number of studies have found that the number of people experiencing depression and anxiety has doubled between March and September, and that's only continuing to rise. In England, women are more likely to experience common mental health problems than men, and they're almost twice as likely to be diagnosed with anxiety disorders. Women in marginalised groups are even more likely to experience mental ill health. So one of the real kind of founts of knowledge when it comes to mental health in the UK is the Mental Health Foundation. And they've looked at a number of social factors that particularly affect women's mental health. And they include a number of things which I'll talk through. For women, more than men, they tend to be the main carer for children, and they might also care for other dependent relatives as well. Women often juggle multiple roles, so they're often mothers, carers, partners, as well as doing paid work and often running a home as well. Women are overrepresented in low income, low status jobs, often part-time, and they're more likely to live in poverty than men. Poverty, working mainly in the home, on housework, and concerns about personal safety can make women feel particularly isolated sometimes. Physical and sexual abuse of girls and women can have a long-term impact on their mental health, especially if no support has been received around past abuses. And then pregnancy, childbirth and menopause can all be really high risk times for women's mental health, and there's still a lack of understanding and support within the community and within the workplace. So that sometimes leaves women isolated. That kind of sets the scene for you. And in this workshop, we're going to look at some of the fundamentals of good mental health in a way that supports you as a woman to feel better, to feel in control and supported, and to be able to thrive at work and at home. Own your life as a modern woman, it's yours. Break through stress and overwhelm and prioritise your well-being. That's what this workshop's all about today. So here are some of the key themes that we're going to look at today. Understanding what areas you might want to improve in your life, and we're going to use a particular tool that we use in our business and I use with my coaching clients to look at what those areas you might want to look at are. We're going to talk about taking ownership, taking responsibility for your own life and well-being. We'll look at identifying what's most important to you. You might also refer to that as your values. We're going to look at creating healthy boundaries. Now, that's something that, in my experience as women, we often really struggle to do effectively. I know I did. I'll talk a little bit about my experience of that. We're going to look at routines and healthy habits. What are the healthy habits that we can put down, that we can establish in our lives to make sure that we are giving ourselves the best possible chance of experiencing really good mental health and well-being? I'm going to talk about the importance of putting yourself first. So that first point, understand what areas you want to improve in your life. Sounds really simple, right? No, not really. There's never been more freedom of expression than there is now, but there've also never been more constraints. In a society that increasingly embraces individuality and equality and diversity, the opportunities for women to be whoever and whatever they want to be is much greater than ever before. But a lot of women feel confused by differing or contradictory expectations of how they should behave, how they should act, what they should do in their lives. In my experience, balancing those expectations, so the expectations of society and family and self-expectation, is leading to confusion and overwhelm among many women. I think that the foundation for thriving under difficult circumstances, and boy, you know, have we ever in our lifetimes experienced more difficult circumstances than what we've seen this year? It's been a challenging year in so many ways for the vast majority of us. And I'm finding myself talking about resilience all the time with our clients and the people that I work with. I believe that resilience is absolutely fundamental to mental health, and that's why there's a big piece on this in this session today. I believe that we can all develop our own resilience and help those around us to develop their resilience and become more resilient as teams and in our families by focusing on a number of key aspects of who we are. It's inevitable in life that we're going to experience difficult things. It's kind of unavoidable. It goes with the territory of being a human being, doesn't it? Bereavement, loss, physical health problems, financial pressure, relationship breakdowns, for some people, addiction. Those are things that so many of us as human beings will experience at times during our lives. Having a resilient mindset means that when we do encounter life's challenges, when we do have those difficult things happen to us or in our lives, it means that we don't get stuck in them. We're able to overcome them and maybe even find a purpose in them. We use a powerful tool in our business and with our clients called the 5 pillars of resilience. And in that, with that tool, we look at 5 key areas that are really fundamental to our personal resilience and ultimately to our well-being. And I think this tool could be a really good place to start when you're thinking about the areas of your life that you might want to work on or you might want to improve. So before we look at those 5 pillars of resilience, I'm going to put a question to you, and I'd love you to drop some thoughts into the chat box, and Steve will unmute himself and read some of them out for me. So what do you think? So we're talking about the 5 pillars of resilience, the 5 fundamental parts of who we are. What do you think some of those pillars of resilience might be? Drop some ideas into the chat box, and Steve, if you want to unmute yourself when you've got anything in the chat box and just read a few out to me, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. So Helen has put having a purpose. Nikki Lee, hi Nikki, self-care. Rosie has put in confidence. And then Sam, downtime, walking the dog. That's a good one. Yeah, some really good ones there.
Fab, thank you. Yeah, so you've absolutely identified some of the things that we've got here within the 5 pillars of resilience. So let's have a look. So the first one is self-awareness. Sounds kind of obvious, doesn't it? But, you know, self-awareness is having a clear perception of who you are, of your personality traits, of your strengths and your weaknesses, your thoughts, your beliefs, the things that motivate you, your emotions. Having that self-awareness allows you to understand yourself better, so you become more aware of why you respond to certain things the way that you do. And that then enables you to start adapting your response to certain situations if you need to. But perhaps more importantly, it also enables you to better understand other people and your response to other people and how they might perceive you. And that can really help in your interactions with others. So that's one area that I'd really encourage you to put a little bit of thought into. So what are the things that motivate you? What are the things in your life or your background that might be affecting your window on the world or your perspective on the world? I'm sure we all try really hard not to be judgmental as much as we can, but in reality, we do bring judgment with us into most situations, and that comes from our frame of reference. That comes from things that have happened to us in our lives, and having that self-awareness, having that understanding as to what are the drivers behind those thoughts and feelings and emotions, actually it can make a huge difference to how you feel. So the next one is mindfulness. Now, some of you might be groaning as you hear the word mindfulness. There's lots of talk about mindfulness and mindfulness practice, and I remember going and doing, Steve and I went and did a mindfulness practitioner training course a while ago, and I nearly fell out with the instructor that was running the course, because he, right from the beginning of the course, he was absolutely adamant that I had to spend 40 minutes every day practicing mindfulness. And I was just like, are you completely crazy? You're telling a busy woman that I've got to somehow find another 40 minutes in my day. I'd have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I can't do that. And, so it kind of tainted my view of mindfulness. But in its purest and very simplest form, mindfulness is simply a state of active, open attention on the here and now. Active attention on the present. So it's not something you have to spend huge chunks of time on. You just take a second here and there to really draw your attention to the present and to be living in the moment and awake to the experience that you're having. And a really simple way to do that is, if you've just got a quiet moment, and I can hear you all laughing now, a quiet moment. If you've just got a quiet moment, just stop for a second and just think, oh, what do I notice about how I'm feeling? What thoughts are running through my mind? Where am I feeling that anxiety? Am I feeling it in my stomach? And just pay some attention to what's going on in your body and in your mind. And actually it really brings you right into the moment. So the third pillar of resilience is self-care. Self-care, I don't know what it conjures up for you when you think about self-care, but for me, straight away I start thinking about pampering days and spa days and things like that. But self-care is totally unique to every person, and it can be understood in lots of different ways. But in its simplest form, it just means whatever the things that you need to do to enable you to function effectively in the world, to meet the challenges of your daily existence, your daily life, with energy and vitality. And those, whatever that is, it will be different, it'll be different for you and totally different for the next person. But it's really important to find what are those self-care practices that you need to build into your daily life, and make sure that you find the time to do those, because they're really, really very fundamental to your health and well-being. The next one is positive relationships. Now, I'm always quick to say this does not have to be intimate relationships at all. Positive relationships, when we're talking about it in this context, what we mean is the people who support and care for us, and we care for them. Now, that might be your husband, wife, or partner, or it might be your group of girlfriends or your family. You know, it's different for everybody. It might be work colleagues. One of the most profound experiences that we can have in life is to have connection with other human beings, to experience feelings of connection. We're built to seek it out. You know, even those people who are quite reclusive and quite quiet, you know, there's still an inbuilt desire in us to connect with others, and building positive relationships with other people where you know there's a mutual support and sharing and all of those things can really help us to feel healthier and happier and more satisfied with life. So, you know, I know in my life there have been times where I just haven't put the time into maintaining those relationships, but it's important to find the time for that, because it's a big part of who we are and, you know, what makes us happy and contented. And then the last one is purpose. This is a really interesting one for me. For a long time, I thought that my sense of purpose, actually it's changed over the years. For a long time, I thought that it only came from my work. And so I was very driven by professional success in my first career as an insurance broker. I still am an insurance broker alongside this, but I was driven by that for a long time. I was driven by that need to be successful in my work life. And then I had children, and then they became my purpose for a long time. And then it's changed and, you know, become much more about this work and the volunteer work that I do. It's different for everybody. We'll find that sense of purpose in different things. Purpose is a recognition that we belong to something that's bigger than we are, that we are serving something bigger than ourselves. And, you know, we can find that in our work, in our hobbies, in our family, in creativity or voluntary work. There's so many different options. But that might be one of the areas that you want to have a focus on. So hopefully by giving a little bit of thought to all of those 5 areas, you might identify for you one area that you would like to focus on improving that will help to contribute to your overall health and well-being. Oh, my slides are not moving on. There we go. So, taking control of our own thoughts and behaviours is really key to protecting our mental health. If we don't do that, then we can be left feeling like we're just bystanders in our own lives, waiting for things to happen to us. And I'm sure we've all had people that we've known, people in our lives that kind of always seem to be a victim of circumstance. Well, you know, if you don't take control of your thoughts and your behaviours and have that awareness, then that can happen. You can feel like you're just waiting for the next thing to happen to you. And it's actually one of the central principles of cognitive behavioural therapy, which is one of the most common forms of psychotherapy that's used to treat, in particular, anxiety, other mental health issues, but in particular anxiety. And this central principle that it's not the things that happen to us, so the external events that cause us pain and difficulties, but it's actually our interpretation of those events. So something happens and then we have our own thinking around the thing that's happened. And it's actually our own thinking about it that's what causes us the mental distress that we sometimes experience. Having that understanding, learning to understand that we're in control of our own thoughts and beliefs is a really empowering way of thinking. Now, it's not an easy one to get a hold of if it's a new concept to you, but it is truly empowering because it returns the control to you. It gives you back control over how you experience and respond to the things that happen to you. I do loads of public speaking, I do keynote speeches and all that kind of stuff. And I talk about some of the things that have happened in my life and some of the experiences that I've had, difficult experiences that I've had in my life. And I always talk about the fact that I always felt that I had a choice in terms of how I responded, and I chose to, whenever something difficult happened to me, I chose to find a purpose in it. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. It's known as having a strong internal locus of control. Let's see how we're doing for time. Okay, good. So external events include other people's behaviour as well. So it's really important to understand that other people's behaviour is included in the category of things that we don't have any control over. So what we do have control over is our response. So if other people behave in a certain way, say something, do something, we can't control that, but we can control how we respond to it. Also, while there is some wisdom in the suggestion that we should be kind to other people, for sure, that's only part of the picture. We shouldn't be cruel, and we should be mindful that sometimes people are facing hidden difficulties that we don't know anything about. To be psychologically healthy, we need to appreciate the importance of taking control of our minds and owning our thoughts and behaviour. By making excuses and blaming external events for our problems and how we're feeling, we prevent ourselves from taking back control. There is a quote from the amazing Eleanor Roosevelt in which she talks about this. So she was quoted as saying, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." You know, whatever you feel, those feelings never come from out there. You know, they don't come from anybody else. You know, the feelings that you have, they only come from inside you. If you're not taking responsibility for your life and making your choices yourself, then there might be other people that will make choices for you who might not have your best interests at heart. So not now, but after the session at some point, I invite you to do a little self-inquiry. So ask yourself, are there any areas of your life that you are not taking responsibility, where you're absolving yourself of responsibility? And is there an area where you can take back that responsibility to help you to move from feeling helpless to a place of strength and certainty? So I've got another question to put to you, please. So we're going to talk about the things that we value. So what are the things that you value most in your life? So time with family, health and well-being. Well, I won't put words in your mouth, but you know, what are the things, what's most important to you? What are the things that are most important to you in your life? What are the things that you value the most? Drop them in the chat box, if you will. And Steve, if you want to unmute yourself and let me have some of the ideas, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. So the chat's filling up quickly. So Christy, I think I've pronounced your name right. Health and family time. Christine, happiness. Helen, spending time with family and friends. Jill, family time. Sophie, happiness. Lots of family, friends time. Great stuff. Spending time with people we care for. Yeah. Wow. The chat is filling up. Brilliant. Stability. That's another one from Sophie.
Nice.
Really good. Thank you.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks for that. Look, we live in a digital age of information overload. We never switch off. We've got bigger workloads, more demands on us than ever before. It's really important, more demands on our time, more demands on our energy. It's really important that we prioritize the things that matter most to us in our lives. It's worth putting some time and energy into getting really clear on what your personal values are. What's important to you? Do you value time with your family above all else? Do you value time alone? Do you value time with your friends, or time and space to pursue hobbies or interests? I only recently realised how much I value time alone. So this was a massive revelation for me. I always thought that I was an extrovert, and I always thought that I needed people around me and stuff going on all the time. But I've started to see how much I want and need time and space to be alone, to actually to do nothing. And it's something that I've started to build into my routine now. So, I've communicated that to the people that are close to me, so that they understand that there are times that actually I'm not available to them because I'm going to take some me time. And that, that might be that I just lock myself in my bedroom and watch some, trashy TV, or I lay and read, or I just lay and do nothing. Or I go for a walk, or whatever it is. But that realization that actually I value solitude. Life is so busy. It's it's constant, and that little pockets of solitude here and there for me are really important. And so I've started to build those now into my time and my life and my routine. Oh, that looks like heaven. That's not me. Once you've identified the things that you value, so once you've, really put some energy into that, and really got clear on, the things that you really value the most, then you can, and that might be, time alone, like me, then you can begin to start thinking about how do you set some boundaries in your life, so that, and that's not just work life, that's work life and personal life. You've got to get those boundaries in place so that you make time and protect the time that you need to spend on things that are important to you. Now, I had a real issue with this when I first started thinking about this for myself. I had a real issue with it because I have a lot of different things that make demands on me, and you will all undoubtedly have the same things going on in your life. I've got 2 very demanding businesses and a volunteer role and teenage children and carving out time for myself to do things just for me felt really selfish. It felt like I was somehow taken away from everybody else if I did that. But I realized that just isn't true. I realized that it's self-care rather than selfish. And it's made a huge difference to my mental health and well-being. And I wouldn't be very good at the stuff that I do if I wasn't walking that walk myself as well. So starting to think about how you first get clear on what those values are, and then we can start thinking about boundaries. This is a really important piece. Setting boundaries is a really important part of establishing your own identity. So not Claire the mum, or Claire the wife, or Claire the partner, or Claire team leader, but actually your own personal identity. And it's a crucial aspect of mental health and well-being. Boundaries can be physical or they can be emotional, and they can range from being relatively loose to being absolutely rigid. Learning to show compassion and kindness to yourself is really crucial in setting healthy boundaries. And it's something that many women really, really struggle with. Who hasn't, at least sometimes, felt that your own needs come after everybody else's? You know, I can speak to this from a really personal perspective. For years and years, I put everybody else before myself. My children, my partner, my work, my business, my volunteer role, my friends, my dogs. Despite having loads of good intentions and having, you know, the understanding up here, having loads of good intentions, there have been countless occasions where in the end I've prioritized everybody else and everything else over what I need from myself. And time again, I've ended up not getting what I need, not doing the thing that I was supposed to do for myself. And I'm willing to bet that that's familiar to you. I'm willing to bet that that is something that you've all experienced. It's really only very recently that I've seen clearly that I've got to create that time and the space that I need for myself to do the things that I need to do for my own physical and emotional health and well-being. So let's look at some of the fundamental components of setting boundaries, because this is a really useful skill to develop. And like I say, one that a lot of women really, really struggle with. So first of all, you've got to know your values. So this is really important, because when you know your values, the things that you value, it enables you to know where your boundaries are. So let me give you an example. If one of your values is experiencing good health and well-being and being more healthy, then in order to achieve that, you might decide that you want to do some exercise every day. So in this case, you would create a boundary that allows you to do that. So you know what the value is, you know what the action you need to take to fulfill that value or to meet that value, and then you need to put a boundary in place that allows you to do it. So in this scenario, you value good health and becoming more healthy. You decide that you want to get exercise every day. And so the boundary that you put down might be, I'm going to finish work promptly at 5 o'clock every day so I can go for a run, or so I can go for a swim, or go to the gym, or whatever the, you know, the healthy activity is that you want to do. But that boundary, I'm going to finish work so that I've got that time, is really important. Communicate clearly and confidently. Let other people know what you are accountable for and discuss with them what they're accountable for. So whether that's in your work life or your home life, lay out what your limits are. So at home, that might be you're going to cook the dinner, but you want other people to do the tidying away. And at work, it might be letting people know when you are available for work and when you are not. So I have a boundary around, I won't take work calls after a certain time in the evening because I value my family time in the evenings. Discuss boundaries straight away with people, get it out there, and also highlight where people have not respected your boundaries, because that's a really important thing to do, and actually people really respect when you do that. Don't let it fester. And you know, if you've said really clearly to somebody, look, I don't take work calls after 8 o'clock in the evening, and then you've got somebody that keeps phoning you, talk to them about it, let them know that actually that's a boundary, and you know, I need you to understand that that's not something that I want. Create structure. This is a really good one, actually. So my business partner in the insurance business that I own and run is also one of my best friends. We talk several times a day, every day. We have lots of meetings, but because we're friends and we've got shared interests, it's really easy for him particularly to kind of lose sight of, you know, what the purpose is of the conversation that we're having. And because I value my time and I've got loads of stuff to do, I need to manage my time really carefully, and I value his as well. So if we've got a meeting planned, because I know he has a tendency to sort of go off on wild tangents, I send him a quick message and I'll say, here is the agenda for when I call. Here are the things that I need to talk about. And oh, by the way, I've only got 40 minutes. And it just helps to keep him on track, you know, and he knows what the purpose is. We've got that structure in place, and I can remind him, you know, if we're going off track, I can say, look, come on, we've got an agenda here and I've only got 40 minutes. And it just helps to maintain those boundaries. It's a really useful tool. Provide clear explanations. So let people know why you're putting boundaries down and what the purpose is, so that people understand. And actually, you know, if you're doing that within a work setting, people respect it. You're modeling really healthy behavior for other people, and other people will start to adopt that behavior themselves if you model it yourself, both in a personal setting and in work. And lastly, on boundaries, prepare for boundaries to be violated. People don't do it on purpose usually. Try not to take it personally, and see it as an opportunity to build a stronger relationship if somebody does violate one of your boundaries, and explain why it's important to you, and that, you know, you'd like them to respect the fact that you know, do X, Y, Z, or don't do X, Y, Z. And, you know, hopefully that will help you to build a better connection and relationship with that person as well. And, you know, you modeling, as I said, you modeling that behavior and setting boundaries for yourself and respecting other people's boundaries, you know, you're teaching other people about that, as I said, about that healthy behavior. And, you know, husbands, wives, partners, children, colleagues, friends, they might actually thank you for it, because it will show them that they can do that themselves in their lives with their time as well. So we've just got a little bit left to do, and then there'll be time for some questions when we get to the end. So that's a very healthy looking lady, very happy, healthy looking lady on the slide there. It's really easy for busy women to lose touch with healthy habits, which lay the foundations for good mental health and well-being. There isn't one single right answer when it comes to healthy habits. You know, we all are different. We all need different things, but every person is unique and needs something different to stay healthy and to stay happy. Give some thought to what might be the sort of healthy routines that you need. Give some thought to what it means to you and how you can make time and space to build in those healthy routines. It doesn't necessarily mean exercise. When it comes to self-improvement, sometimes we can get really caught up with the big picture. You know, we want to be happy or get healthy or, you know, achieve a big goal, run a marathon like that lovely lady on the slide. But oftentimes we forget that making really minor changes to our daily routines is what can really help us to get there. So we might have a bigger goal, but just making small changes, small steps, actually they are the things that help to get us there to that big goal in the end. When it comes to mental health particularly, small, manageable changes can actually have the biggest impact on our mental health and well-being, and ultimately how we're feeling. Let's look at some of the healthy habits that you could be building into your life, into your daily routine and your weekly routine. And this is not prescriptive and it's not exhaustive, it's just some ideas. Some of it's quite obvious, but sometimes stating the obvious is quite helpful, I find. So we've got 10 areas that you can look at. So work-life balance, I think that's a biggie, especially now. So, you know, before the pandemic, we were already living in this always on culture. You know, our devices are ever present, particularly in my teenage children's hands. It's like they're super glued into their hands. Because we've got constant access to communication and information, it feels like a lot of pressure to stay on all the time, and we don't have to do that. You know, since the pandemic started and most of us have been working from home a lot of the time, I think there's been a real kind of increase in that, always people being always on. There's less delineation between work life and home life because they're kind of melting into one thing. And I think it's really important that we create that delineation between work life and home life, get balance between the two, whatever it is for you. You know, it's not prescriptive, but just make sure you've got some delineation. Make sure you have some time where you do actually switch off. I have a curfew in an evening now, so my mobile phone goes on charge in another room at 8:30 in the evening, and that's it. And that's helped me to feel like I'm switching off, because otherwise I just felt like I was never really, even though I might not be actually sat working, the fact that it's there, I never really felt like I was switching off. Exercise. Everybody knows that exercise is good for us. Not only does it keep us physically healthy, it helps to improve brain function, it increases endorphins, and it helps to reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression. There's a very strong link between anxiety and the reduction of symptoms of those common mental health disorders. You don't have to be doing anything crazy. You don't have to be, you know, going from 0 to running marathons. Just find something that you enjoy doing. And if you're just starting out, just aim for 20 minutes of exercise a few times a week. It doesn't have to be, you know, anything too crazy. Socialise. Now that's not particularly easy at the moment. It's a bit easier than it has been, but studies have shown that people with strong social ties to friends, family, and their community are happier, they live longer than people that don't have those ties. People who are lacking in social connections are at a much greater risk of depression and cognitive decline over the years. So make an effort to spend time with the people whose company you enjoy. We're not in a total lockdown at the moment, so you can get out and do things, and although there are some restrictions, but you know, make an effort to spend time with people whose company you enjoy. Do something for yourself. Get outside. You don't have to be an outdoorsy person. You don't have to climb mountains or anything like that. But there's a lot of evidence to show that periods of time outdoors is really good for our physical and mental health. It helps to boost serotonin levels in the brain, which is really, really key in mental health disorders like depression and anxiety. It improves mood. Something simple like just parking a little bit further away when you go shopping, or you know, just building in a short walk into your day every day, and just get outside for a little bit, actually can make a really big difference to how you're feeling. Meditate. Now, this takes me back to what I was saying about mindfulness. You don't have to do a 40-minute practice unless that's what you want to do. Some people do, and it works really well for them. But meditation can take many forms. Sitting quietly for 5 minutes and taking a few deep breaths could be enough to calm a racing mind and a racing heart if you experience those kind of feelings of anxiety. You don't have to be a master of Zen. You can just try to find a few moments of peace and quiet every day. Laugh. Everybody loves a good laugh, and that's because laughing releases feel-good chemicals in the brain. It doesn't just make us feel good in the moment, it can actually have a long-term impact on reducing stress, improving short-term memory, and increasing your ability to learn. So, you know, when they talk about laughter being the best medicine, it actually is. So watch more comedy, listen to podcasts, get together with a group of friends who you always have a laugh with. I've got a group of girlfriends, one of them's on this session today. And when we get together, we don't stop laughing, and it is literally the best medicine. I can turn up, if we're all meeting up, I can turn up feeling absolutely rubbish, and by the end of the evening we will have laughed so much that whatever I've been worrying about seems to have disappeared. Sleep well. Oh, it's easy, isn't it? Just sleep well. Sleep is really closely linked to mental health. That won't be news to any of you. Poor sleep can lead to complications such as depression, anxiety, stress, weight gain, heart disease. If you haven't already, make getting good sleep a priority for you. Have a look at sleep hygiene. Think about your sort of habits through the day and into the evening. Are you doing things that maybe are having an impact on your sleep? Are you drinking too much caffeine? Are you sat on devices until just before you go to bed? Have a think about those things, because there are lots of things that we can do that will help us to sleep better, have better quality sleep. Be thankful. During the most difficult times in my life, one of the things that got me through was practicing gratitude. And it seems, I don't know, it seems almost ridiculous to say that practicing gratitude can get you through really difficult experiences, but I know it to be true. You know, I've been through some really tough things, and it was one of the things that I really grabbed hold of. I realized that even though I was going through horrendous experiences, actually I still had things to be grateful for. And practicing that, writing down every day the 3 things I was most grateful for, transformed the way that I was feeling. So if you've never done that practice, have a go. Start a journal, or just write something down, or phone a friend, or tell one of your family members what you are feeling grateful for that day, and I guarantee it will make you feel better. Eat well. We're learning more and more about just how much diet impacts on our bodies and our brains, our mental health. There's been loads of research recently into the microbiome in the gut, and the link between that being unbalanced and certain mental health conditions. There's definitely a link there. So, we all know that it's good for our bodies to eat healthy food, but it's actually really good for our mental health as well. So just have a think about, what are you putting in your body, and, can you eat more fresh stuff? It's likely to have an impact on both physical and mental well-being. And then finally, plan something fun. Studies have shown that planning a trip can be just as rewarding as the trip itself. So that might be all we can do at the moment. We're all feeling probably a bit jaded by the experience that we've had over the last several months, but it won't last forever. And, how lovely would it be to plan something for next year that you can look forward to? And I'm certainly going to be doing that. I'm going to book a holiday really soon for next year that I can really look forward to with my children. So we are almost at the end of the time that we've got together today. So just a quick recap over the things that we have looked at. So understanding what areas you want to improve in your life. direction and purpose. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong list on there. Understanding what areas you want to improve in your life, taking ownership of your life and your health and your well-being, identifying what's most important to you, your values, creating healthy boundaries, routines and healthy habits are the sort of things that you can build into your daily and weekly life to support your physical and mental health and well-being, and putting yourself first. I hope that you have all heard something today that you will be able to take away and use in your life that will help you to experience better mental well-being. There will be a recording of the session, so we'll send that to you, and then you can watch it back if you want, or share it. And we'll also share the slides with you if you would like them as well. We've packed as much as we can into today's session. There was a lot that I wanted to try and get in there for you. I hope that you found some value in it, but there is only so much that you can pack into a 1-hour session. We're just launching a new online 12-step mental health program for women. And in that, we explore in great detail, taking into account all of the latest research, all of the different elements of good mental health and well-being for women, giving you all the tools that you need to take control of your mental health and experience greater health, happiness and contentment so that you can thrive in your personal life and your work life. So by the time you come off the session today, you'll have had an email from us, which will give you links to the recording and details of the programme if you're interested in having a look at it. And do feel free to share your experience of the session today with other people if you feel to. We have a little bit of time. We've just got a minute or two, a couple of minutes left. So if there are any questions, then I will be super happy to receive them. And Steve, if there are any, if you want to unmute yourself, that would be good.
Thank you, Claire. No questions at the moment. Some great comments. Oh, there's a question from Charlotte. Is there any mental health training you would recommend?
Yes, yes, there is. I mean, we provide various kinds of mental health training. So we've got an array of different propositions within our sort of portfolio. Probably the thing that I would recommend the most is mental health first aid training. I think there's 1 or 2 people on the session today that have done mental health first aid training with me and with my business. That's kind of at the core of what we do. And I think if you do mental health first aid training, it gives you a really good grounding in mental health. It doesn't make you into a specialist, but it does give you a really good foundation in mental health, and it will help you to be able to help support other people, and also to really look after your own mental health as well.
Great stuff.
Anything else?
No, there's nothing at the moment.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I am so grateful to all of you for attending today. I hope you really enjoyed the session, and I hope that you have taken something away from today that's really useful for yourself. If you're not already connected with me on LinkedIn, then feel free to send me a connection request on LinkedIn. I share loads of stuff. We share loads of stuff on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me there. If you do have any questions or anything you'd like any help with, then feel free to get in touch, and we'll be in touch with a recording of today's session and some of the other bits that I mentioned as well. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you all again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.